Native American cultures, spread across North America, are diverse and rich in traditions that have been passed down through generations. These cultures have maintained deep spiritual, social, and communal practices that have shaped their societies for centuries. One of the most fascinating and often misunderstood aspects of Native American life is their rituals and forms of punishment. While it may sound intense, the purpose of this ritual was to create a powerful bond between the individual, the community, and the Creator. It was a prayer for the well-being of the tribe and the individual's spiritual growth. Similarly, other tribes, such as the Zuni and Hopi, had their own unique rituals linked to nature and their ancestors. If someone broke a tribal law or committed an offense, the elders would intervene. The punishment might involve public shaming, physical labor, or other actions that focused on teaching the individual the error of their ways rather than causing harm. In some cases, banishment was a form of punishment, but this was rarely a permanent exile. It is essential to understand that this practice was not widespread across all tribes. Some tribes believed that by taking the scalp of a fallen enemy, they could gain their strength or protect their tribe. However, it is important to note that this practice was mainly associated with wartime and was not a standard form of justice or punishment within the tribe. When Europeans encountered Native American societies, their views of justice and punishment were shaped by their own legal and cultural norms. Native American rituals and punishments were not arbitrary or violent for the sake of violence. They were deeply tied to spiritual beliefs, community well-being, and the survival of the tribe. These practices were grounded in a worldview that viewed every action as part of a larger, interconnected system, which were very different from those of Native Americans. As a result, rituals and practices such as the sun dance, scalping, which led to the forced relocation of thousands of Native Americans from their ancestral lands to reservations. Children were taken from their families, forbidden to speak their native languages. In the 20th and 21st centuries, there has been a strong resurgence in the practice of traditional rituals. These rituals, which had been suppressed by European settlers and the U.S. government, are now practiced openly as a way to reconnect with the land, ancestors, and the spirit world. The restorative justice approach in Native American societies was designed to heal relationships and restore harmony to the community. When someone committed a wrongdoing, the aim was not to punish them in a retributive manner, but to bring them back into alignment with the tribe. These ceremonies are often accompanied by songs, drumming, and dances that honor the earth and the Creator. Offenders were expected to make reparations, often through acts of service or compensation, to restore the harm done to the victim and their family. These efforts are part of a broader movement to regain sovereignty and control over their own affairs. In recent years, some Native American communities have also made strides in improving their justice systems, focusing on rehabilitation rather than punishment. These practices were not about violence or cruelty, but about maintaining balance, peace, and spiritual harmony. They were integral parts of the social fabric that held communities together, often guided by a profound sense of respect for the earth, ancestors, and the Creator. This form of justice was deeply rooted in the belief that every individual's actions affected the community, and healing was necessary to restore peace. We can better appreciate the resilience and strength of Native American cultures. This includes acknowledging the value of their rituals, their justice systems, and the wisdom they have to offer in the modern world. We can also help break down the stereotypes and misconceptions that have been perpetuated by centuries of colonization and misunderstanding, reinforcing the deep spiritual connection that Native American cultures have with nature and the cosmos. In Native American traditions, the goal was to maintain harmony within the community and ensure that the wrongdoer could reintegrate with respect and dignity, including those that had been forced into hiding during colonization. The sun dance, for example, has been revived among the Lakota, Cheyenne, and other Plains tribes. With the encroachment of modern legal systems and the ongoing effects of colonization, many tribes are struggling to reclaim their traditional methods of conflict resolution and punishment. However, there is a growing movement within Native American communities to preserve and promote their heritage, including their unique systems of justice, who now use it to reconnect with their heritage and to pray for the health and prosperity of their communities, and prohibited from practicing their spiritual rituals. This cultural genocide, aimed at assimilating Native Americans into European American society, led to the near loss of many traditional practices, including the very rituals and forms of punishment that had once maintained peace and order within the tribes. This act was not only a tragedy in terms of displacement and loss of life, but it also disrupted the cultural and social fabric of Native American societies. Many tribes were forced to abandon their traditional rituals and forms of justice in favor of survival in unfamiliar lands, where their cultural practices were often outlawed or discouraged, or certain forms of punishment were often seen as savage or barbaric through the lens of colonialism. Nor was it solely used as a punishment. In the context of warfare, scalping was a symbolic gesture, sometimes used to mark the defeat of an enemy. Many of the rituals and practices that were integral to Native American societies were misunderstood or outright rejected by the newcomers. The colonizers, whose legal and social systems were vastly different, often viewed Native American practices through the lens of fear and cultural superiority. The rituals, such as the sun dance or certain forms of punishment, were seen as barbaric or savage, leading to a push to eradicate or suppress these traditions. The scalp was often taken as a trophy in the context of war. They attempted to impose their own form of justice on the native populations. This included the forced adoption of European legal systems and the criminalization of native customs. The very rituals that had held sacred meaning for centuries were often regarded as primitive and brutal. This resulted in a lasting cultural dissonance between Native Americans and Europeans, as colonization sought to replace native governance and justice systems with foreign structures, not necessarily as an individual form of punishment. Rather, it was meant to serve as a way for the individual to reflect on their actions and seek redemption, including dances and ceremonies meant to ensure the health of crops and the tribe's survival. In this video, we aim to explore these practices, not to sensationalize them, but to understand their deeper meanings. Historical significance. They were centered around the concept of balance, both within the individual and the community. If someone was found guilty of an offense, such as theft, dishonoring their family, or engaging in harmful behavior, the focus was on healing relationships rather than exacting revenge. The Navajo people, for example, practiced what could be considered a form of restorative justice. In their society, wrongdoers were often required to make restitution, compensate the victim, and restore the damaged relationships, and the role they played in maintaining harmony within the community. Instead, they were designed to teach a lesson and restore balance to the individual and the tribe. For example, in some tribes, physical punishment might involve actions like being sent into the wilderness for a period of time to reflect and come to terms with one's actions. This was not meant to be a form of torture, but a method of reconnecting with the land, the spirits, and the individual's inner self. The spiritual connection of rituals. Rituals were deeply tied to spirituality in Native American communities. These rituals weren't just ceremonial. They were essential to the survival and prosperity of the tribes. Each ritual had a purpose, ranging from healing to ensuring the fertility of the land and protecting the tribe from harmful forces. One of the most significant rituals among many Plains tribes was the sun dance. They were the keepers of traditions, wisdom, and laws. When conflict arose or transgressions were committed, the elders were the ones who mediated and determined the appropriate response. Their approach to justice was not based on punishment for punishment's sake, but rather on the restoration of balance and peace within the community. A deeply spiritual ceremony where dancers sought spiritual guidance, strength, and healing. This ritual was not about suffering for suffering's sake, but rather about showing resilience, devotion, and a connection to the divine forces. The sun dance involved fasting, dancing, drumming, and sometimes self-sacrifice, where individuals would pierce their skin to demonstrate their strength. The role of the elders. In Native American communities, elders played a crucial role in guiding the younger generations and maintaining social order. In many tribes, punishment wasn't about retribution but about correcting behavior in a way that restored harmony. The concept of justice in Native American societies. Native American justice systems were vastly different from modern punitive systems. Punishments, when they were deemed necessary, were not intended to be cruel or degrading. The practice of scalping. One of the most misunderstood and sensationalized practices in Native American culture is scalping. While many think of scalping as a barbaric act, scalping also had spiritual significance, and the scalp was often seen as the seat of a person's life force. Misunderstanding and stereotyping. Unfortunately, many of these practices were misunderstood or misrepresented by early European settlers and colonizers. It's crucial to view these practices through the lens of their cultural context. The European influence on Native American practices. The arrival of European settlers had a profound impact on Native American cultures. For instance, when European settlers arrived in the Americas, the Indian Removal Act and its effects. One of the most devastating events in Native American history was the Indian Removal Act of 1830. The boarding school system that was implemented during this period further sought to strip Native American children of their cultural heritage, reviving and reclaiming Native American rituals. Despite centuries of suppression, Native American communities have shown incredible resilience in preserving and reviving their cultural practices. Additionally, other spiritual practices such as the Vision Quest and Sweat Lodge ceremonies have seen a revival. Restorative justice in Native American communities. In many Native American cultures, the concept of justice was not centered around punishment, but rather around restoring balance. The Navajo Nation, for example, practiced restorative justice by focusing on healing and reconciliation. This method of justice stands in stark contrast to modern punitive systems, which often focus on imprisonment and retribution. The modern struggles of Native American justice. Today, Native American communities continue to face challenges in maintaining their cultural practices and justice systems. Many tribal governments now operate under their own legal systems, which blend traditional customs with modern legal frameworks. A call for understanding and respect. As we reflect on Native American rituals and punishments, it is important to approach them with respect and a deep understanding of their cultural significance. By understanding the historical context and spiritual foundations of these practices, as we move forward, it is essential to continue supporting the preservation and revival of Native American cultures and traditions.